Everybody,
Let me get
welcome to another episode of The Influential Nonprofit. As you know, I'm your host. I'm Maryanne Dersch. I work with nonprofit organizations to master the art of influence so they can ask for and receive everything they want and need without feeling, and these are the three big, rejected, ineffective, or pushy, because who wants to be pushy? I actually teach people how to build aligned and authentic relationships to build communities of support. And I am here with my new friend, Kotsinis, and it's Greek. I hope I pronounced it right. And you help people also build communities of support more in the digital space. And we're going to talk all about how to do that today. Hi, Lou. Welcome.
Hey, Maryanne, great to be with you. And I have to say, that was excellent pronunciation. You are an honorary Greek.
Oh, wow.
And that's saying a lot. Most people butcher it, but you got it right the
Oh,
first
well,
time.
because my family's Polish, so I grew
Okay.
up pronouncing a lot of awkward last names with the
Sure.
consonants in
It's
it.
tough.
Yeah. Okay. So if you know my nonprofit, or sorry, my podcast, I start with the same question, and I want you to think about this. Tell me something you're really proud of that you don't get to brag about a lot. What's just right under the surface? Maybe people don't know a lot about you, or you don't talk a lot about.
Publicly, they wouldn't know this, but the thing that I'm very proud about, and that locally here, at least with the family and friends, I brag about quite a bit. I have been playing the drums since I was about, oh goodness, 10 years old. I am now 52, so I'm a gentleman of a certain age, as you might say, right?
Uh-huh.
So that's a long time. And in the last couple of years, I've gotten together with some friends and we put together a jazz trio, and it's kind of done pretty well around town. We play private parties and festivals and street fairs and things like that, and it's kind of growing a small following. I mean, you don't get into this to make a fortune. Nobody plays jazz to make money, but it's really fulfilling. And when you own your own business, as you know, it can get stressful. So it's nice to have
Sure.
this creative outlet, this ability to express yourself in different ways, and it's also kind of it's a good mental exercise too, because I've learned to read music, and yeah, it's all good.
I love that. My
Mm.
brother's a drummer, my dad was a drummer, my oldest drums. So we have drums in our family. And I love this too. Okay, I have a philosophy, and I don't want to swear on my podcast, but I call it F it, I'm 50. And so when you turn 50 and you're just like, so my
Yeah.
best friend, when she um would always wanted to sing in a band, and she just started this band, and they
Yeah.
play covers, and she's the queen of Southern Illinois. I'm going to tell you, they play all these dive bars, and Sherry walks in. It's called Cherry Bomb. Her name's
Okay.
Sherry, and she loves it. It's like, yeah, you're not getting rid, but it's that creative outlet. It's like the growth,
Right.
it's opportunities for growth. I love that.
That's right.
I love that. And that you're kind of getting a following, you're playing
Yeah.
out and about.
Yeah. It's fun. I mean, to your point, when you reach a certain age in life, you're really not going to get that many more opportunities. I don't mean to sound negative on that front, but you have to take advantage of all the kind of
Yeah.
time you have in front of you. So you do the things that you feel are going to bring you fulfillment.
Yeah.
That's one of them.
When I turned 50, I joined a burlesque troupe.
Yeah, can't help you there. I don't think I'm going in that direction, but
It was so funny
that's
because like
hilarious.
everyone was like 25, or
Uh-huh.
and I was like 50 because I'm 58 now. I was like 50, and this is a like, yeah, and like but this is a true story. There was like 7 people in the class, and 3 of them were librarians.
Oh,
I had
okay.
never met a high concentration of I'm like, okay, so alter
Really?
egos coming out. I like
Exactly.
this. I like
Wow.
this.
Well, I got to tell you, you're much more adventurous than I am, so hats off. Mhm.
All right. Well, yeah, I am a little bit. I have to say, I am a rebel. All right. So let's talk about growing your cause online. So let me give you your credentials. You're the CEO of BCS Interactive, a digital marketing agency dedicated exclusively to the nonprofit community. Love that.
Mm.
For 16 years I worked at a company called 501 Creative, and our
Mhm.
client base was completely nonprofit.
Right.
And so 2011, you have a team of designers, technologists, and digital strategists that help nonprofits nationwide grow their cause and reach millions of followers. Now, if you've got enough followers, you can just skip to the next podcast. But if you don't have enough followers, Lou's going to teach you how to do it. And you have the 4 steps to growing your cause online. So why don't we start there and just let's
Sure.
talk about the steps, and then we can sort of dive into and continue the conversation with
Yeah,
that.
yeah, that sounds great. So, whenever we meet with usually a new client, we look to assess 4 specific areas, right? The first is always going to be their positioning, which is really the most important factor in their whole marketing kind of kind of program, right? And that comes down to, well, what is their story? Who is their audience? Is their messaging around that story resonating with that audience? And if you get that right, the next three steps kind of fall into place. If you get it wrong, you're kind of fighting an uphill battle. As a marketing person, I think you can kind of
Sure.
relate to that. So step number one is assessing their positioning. Step number two is kind of looking into how are they telling that story, and that primarily is their website, because the website is the most critical storytelling device, the most useful storytelling device that you have.
Yes.
So we want to look at that in terms of, what is the quality of that experience, right? Are people engaged when they come to the site? Do they understand what you do? Are you taking them kind of down a path through various pages and content to get to a point where they're going to make a quote unquote conversion or a donation? What's the overall user experience? So that's what we're looking at there. And then if you're looking again at these sequentially, what does their online audience look like, right? Is it sizable? Are they actually building a community rather than just publishing events and galas and things that they're doing? So that's effectively really looking at their social media channels and looking to see how we can establish that community and help them grow. And then lastly, but certainly not least, is then how are they communicating on a one-to-one basis with their donor base, with their constituency? And that comes down to email marketing. So it's, are they delivering value in each email?
Yes.
Yes, are they segmenting their lists in a way that they're speaking specifically to that individual? So, the clients come to us sometimes for one of these components, like they have the rest in place and they want us to, let's say, redesign their site, or they have a great site, they need to work on their positioning. But, in an ideal world, you work on these sequentially because of that key positioning factor first, then you kind of go down the line. So those are the four.
So the positioning would be like what story you're telling, and then the deliveries are like, or the how, then it's like how you're telling it. What's the channels of you're telling it?
Correct.
And I completely agree with everything you said, because the words I use is like the website is the foundation of your communications, right? It's where you're driving everything from and to,
Mhm.
and you don't build your house on a shaky foundation.
Correct.
That's it now. Okay. I have some thoughts, but I think the positioning and being the critical, what is, how do I know that I'm positioning my organization in the most beneficial way
Mhm.
possible?
Well, I mean, first you have to think about your overall success, right? If people recognize your brand, they recognize what you do, and they're already coming to you, that's a pretty good indicator that your positioning is kind of, on track. But, the way you want to investigate that is actually ask. And I'm really surprised at how many nonprofits don't take the time to actually speak to their donor base, to speak to their constituency, to talk to stakeholders and say, when you think about us, what feelings come to mind? And when those feelings come to mind, is that accurately represented in the way we're talking about ourselves, the way we're behaving? And yes, what the logo looks like. Everybody, as soon as we talk brand or position, they say, oh, I've got to do the logo. But
Yeah.
it's more about, what are the feelings and emotions that people get when they see and hear and think about you? So the way to start to assess that, there's really two kind of mechanisms we use. The first is to actually speak to people, do the surveys, you don't have to do focus groups per se, but talk to people, try to get some feedback as to how you're being perceived in the marketplace, and then try to back that up with some data. And you don't have to be, a data scientist to do that. You can have a small shop. It's looking at your Google Analytics. It's going into Facebook and going into the Insights tab and seeing, oh, our demographic tends to be this age, this gender, this part of the country. And then, look at email, look at your donor database and start to use those factors to paint kind of a persona. And a persona is an actual tool that we use. It's just a snapshot of who that individual might be. So you're thinking about your mission, you're thinking about who you are and who you want to be, and making sure that meets the audience expectations.
Yes. All of that. So my methodology, I do these things called discovery sessions. I've been doing them for years and years. I did them at 5-1 Creative, where it's the same survey, like it's like a focus group, but I just get people together, and I say like, and I ask them questions around but the questions I'll ask are, what 3 words come to mind? What would you
Right.
tell somebody? But it is because all relationships are built on an emotional connection,
Mhm.
not a logo.
Right. That's right.
You don't love somebody because their logo, because you like what they do and you feel connected to it.
Right.
And so understanding those connection points is like, what Why do people feel connected?
Mhm.
You can look at your posts. What are the posts that are getting the reactions? All of those things. And like that are huge indicators of what feeling do you want people to connect with? And you're right, because if once you nail that, everything else is just implementation, you know?
And can I add to that, Marianne, that one of the advantages that nonprofits come to the table with it, that many times, again, they don't actually realize. I always, when I give webinars on these topics, I talk about how they have to kind of find their self-esteem, is that by definition, a nonprofit has a beautiful human story, right? There's no excuse for not being able to at least appreciate what you do. And I'll juxtapose that, before we got into nonprofits, we were general agency. We work with law firms, we work with banks, and no knock against them, but it's hard to tell a human story about a bank. Look at any bank's marketing or advertising. It's usually the most disingenuous stories that you've seen with stock photography and stuff like that. Any nonprofit is doing good in the world. And because of that, you should have some assets to draw from that create the very things that you were talking about, which is emotional engagement. And these are the things that we aim to see through social media posts, through email marketing, definitely on the website where it's complete real estate that's your own to tell that story. So, I want to give everyone listening a boost of confidence that
Yes.
you have the foundation to at least get started. The
Yeah,
technical stuff, you can find
yeah.
somebody to take care of, right?
It's really just bringing that great story and articulating that great story, like bring it to life. You made me think of something. So when I'm in college, I was an advertising major, and
Mhm.
all my friends were ad majors, and I was the only one who went into nonprofit. And I'm like, oh, I'm a nonprofit, and everybody's like, working for these big sexy ad
Yeah.
agencies. And my friend said, my friend Rebecca, we're still friends, but I always remember this. She looked at me, she said, I am so jealous of you because you get to like write about, kids
That's right.
and I have to write about roofing tiles.
Yeah. So it's funny. We had a roofing client at one point way back
Like
when. I
she's trying to think
yeah,
of something sexy to say about roofing tiles. Like
yeah.
and so I love your point, because I do feel like sometimes we think, oh, we don't have this, or we focus on what we don't have, but what you do have is everything we do is rooted in service and in bettering people, community, animals, the environment, whatever. And in that itself is an inherent great story. It's just a matter of bringing it to life and telling it in a way that resonates with people.
I couldn't have
That's
said
it.
it better. That's right.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, let's talk about the website a little
Mm.
bit. Because it is the foundation, it's your step 2. So what can you tell us about, like what should we be looking for in our website, or doing with the website?
Sure. Well, there's multiple elements there. The first I would look at, and I've done specific talks just on this, is again positioning, but as it relates to the website. What I mean by that is when a user arrives at a nonprofit website, they should know instantly what it is that you do. And that's done through the messaging that you're putting right there on the homepage or on your mobile device. Too many nonprofits go into putting the whole kitchen sink on the homepage, or they'll do worse. They'll put nothing and just assume people know what it is that they do. We all know, Marianne, people have very short attention spans. You've got like 15 seconds to capture that user's attention, even if
If
they're,
that, I think it's more
yeah,
like 5.
exactly. Even if they're motivated to get there. So, at some point, if I don't know if you have examples, or they can come to our website and look at some examples. But simplicity is key, right? You want to capture that visitor's attention as soon as they come, and then to your point, the second thing is you want that emotional engagement. Oh, this is what they do. Wow, I am moved by what they are doing. The goal is to then entice them to come further into the story and learn more about what it is that you do. And then it's up to you to understand what information they're looking for, right? You need to know your audience. You need to understand that this is why they came to us. Let me tell more of that story on these pages and that page. And then throughout all of that, you're really trying to prompt them towards the action, aren't you? Right? You've come
Yes.
to learn about this topic. I moved these people. I can trust them. They're showing impact, which is a key consideration here. I might just give. If not now, at some point I will. And so it's those kind of steps: clarity, engagement, moving them along a path. And then let me just underscore that by saying, and overall, you really do need to watch your user experience for your constituents. And user experience, it can be 1,000 things, but the bottom line is, can your users find what they're looking for when they need to find it? Is your
Mhm.
navigation clear? Does it make sense? Do the pages work as they should when they go to the donation page? Is that working properly? Is it secure? So, we all shop online. We know what it's like to go to a site that just doesn't work and it frustrates you towards the brand. And that's not something you want when you're dealing with potential donors. So you want to take a look at your user experience as well, too.
Yeah. I here's the whole I think people trip on, which is I work with a concept called the medicine and the cure. So
Mhm.
people will swallow any medicine if the cure is strong enough, right? And the
Okay.
cure, and what that means is, we talk too much about the medicine and the process and the how, because for most people, their staff, that's what they're consumed with.
Yeah.
But it's really the cure, the outcome. And so when people say, what does your organization do? They're not asking for a laundry list of programs. They're
Mhm.
asking for you to tell them, what difference do you make?
How do you
Right?
change
What good
lives?
are you putting
Exactly.
into the world? And so that for me is like, even sometimes like, am I getting a little medicine-y here? Um,
Mhm.
because I want to make like, because it's all about the outcomes. It's out,
Yeah,
and people don't really care how. And if they want, they can dig down and learn that. Most people just want to know what difference you're making in the world.
that's correct.
And and but the how sometimes gets too much in there, because that's what people are doing day to
Mhm.
day. So they default to that. When somebody says like, what does your organization do? Like, I just actually had a call with this woman, and I this isn't my client. I just met her at a workshop, but I
Mhm.
just thought that her organization, um she said, dedicated to empowering families with critically ill newborns.
Mhm.
Like, okay. Restore stability and dignity for families who've experienced prolonged hospitalization of their newborn. Okay, I
Mhm.
get it.
Yeah.
And now but they're not telling me like how we do it yet. But I don't. I'll
Mhm.
figure it out later. Here's all the different programs that they
Yeah.
do. Um, Plus, there's a really cute baby.
That always helps. That
Yeah.
talk
So, but
talk
I mean,
about
I
engagement.
just want to say, like thinking about it through that idea of the
Mhm.
cure, of the outcome. That's what people want to know that you do. They don't
Mhm.
want to know that you have this program, this program. Like, what does all that mean in the
Mhm.
world?
Mhm.
And that's part of the positioning, right? For
That's
me,
right.
that's part of that positioning. And able to see that on your website in 5 seconds. Okay, number one, two. Now I want to get to three, because
Mhm.
I think email is one of the most neglected and misunderstood tools that we have in nonprofit.
Mhm.
So tell me what your philosophy is around email.
So number three is actually social media,
Oh,
but I'm
social
happy to
media,
talk
right?
about email if you want.
Okay, no, you know what? You're right. I got all excited about email. Let's talk
We
to
can
social
talk about
media.
email.
Let's talk about social media,
Right.
because it's a I just feel like the algorithms, I'm like,
Sure.
is anybody really seeing anything you post?
Right. So I don't have the latest stats on that, but you are 100% correct. The last I heard, let's say we're looking at Facebook, they will show your post to about 1 to 5, if you're lucky, percent of your audience. So if you have a 10,000 member audience, 1% is what, 100? So many nonprofits, many businesses in general don't know that that's the case. So, um, yeah, the key in our world for social media is that it's a mind state shift, right? It's social media is not a platform that you go on twice a week just to post about your upcoming gala or your upcoming event, right? You have to think carefully about the people that are coming to your page. They have a million distractions. They have a million other pages they could go on. What are you providing them that's actually giving them value so that you can actually build a community there? So it starts with, again, coming back to your audience and thinking about who they are, thinking about your mission, and making sure that you're educating them, that you're getting them excited about what it is that you do, talking about things based on your nonprofit niche that are exciting and interesting to them. So that's your foundational layer of what we call organic content, and the technical term meaning these are the free posts that you're putting out and the free reels that you're putting out on your own on these channels. Now, there was a time many years ago, I'm kind of dating myself, before Facebook went public, that you could build a substantial following just by doing that. And then one day Facebook went public and they had to please, investors. So it's now kind of paid to play, meaning that if you really want to grow your audience, you're going to have to invest a little bit in paid social media advertising to direct more people to like your page, or at the very least do what we call boosting your posts, which means put a little money behind your key posts so that it's going to reach more audience members. If you're doing that over time and you're building your brand offline as well too, and people are getting to know your organization, they will inevitably follow you on social. Over time, that's how you build a quality series of social pages. But it really, if there's one word you take away from this, it's community. It's thinking about, building a solid group of followers that are interested in what you have to say.
Yep. That's what I say all the time. What we're doing is building a community of
Mhm.
support.
Correct.
And because people want to feel connected to something greater than them, they want to feel connected to like your organization is a part of their identity, you know, and part of who they are. Like my kids are adopted out of foster care. I
Mhm.
love the Foster Adoptive Care Coalition, not just and not just me because I have kids in foster care, but they do such a good job of making me feel connected to
Mhm.
this community through their posts. And here's one thing I want to add, which I feel like a lot of organizations in their content is that expert content. So everybody's expert. Like my friend Jennifer is expert in NICU and newborns, and you can pump out a lot of that content that where you're being of value. Here's 5 things to look at, or 10, 10 10 what to do when you see what to say when someone on the street asks you for
Mhm.
money,
Mhm.
and you put that out, and then as and like people respond to that because you actually have so much intelligence, you have so much content that you can educate people with. And I think this is in my experience has been a hard concept for people to understand, that because they want to just, oh, we do this and we're so great at this. It's like, what if you had a friend and
Mhm.
every time, like you and I had lunch, and all I did was sit and tell you how awesome I was for an hour? Like,
Right.
no, like I want to know about you, you're going to know about
Correct.
me, and maybe I'll share, some wisdom, or you'll share some like I always bring it down to like that relational building,
Mhm.
that, what would I say to a friend? How would
Yeah.
I what would this look like one on one? Because that's the same energy you want to bring into if you're doing it, one on one to 10,000 to one.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. And value is the kind of like through line through everything we're talking about here, right? You want to have respect for your audience. You want to know who they are and then provide them value. The example you're giving of providing education is spot on.
All right, now can we talk about email?
Absolutely.
So
We've saved the best to last.
the thing I say all the time is your job is to get people off social media, which is unreliable reach, and onto your email list, which is reliable reach,
Right.
right? And then I work with a couple of brilliant marketers, nonprofit marketers that who really specialize in email. And it's um and they say, where are your new donors going to come from? They're
Mhm.
probably already on your email list. I
Yeah.
think people are like, oh, we need, and they're going, I don't think people really understand email
Mhm.
and understand how to use it the best way. So
Right.
what's your philosophy on that?
So, I mean, email it's not a monthly newsletter that you just dump all of your information in and send it out and then wonder 2 months later, why didn't anybody click on the donate button, right?
Listen
The,
to Lou, people. It is not if you're mailing monthly and just
uh,
doing that newsletter format.
Right.
Okay, yeah.
So I just want to give you an example out of our own world, that my world that just works. So we built the website for the New Jersey Conservation Foundation. I myself love the outdoors. I love hiking. There's a lot of overdevelopment in New Jersey. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm a capitalist like everybody else, but they're really just gobbling up a lot of beautiful land to just put more and more warehouse space. So what the Conservation Foundation does is they pool up the money and they purchase these areas so that the public can enjoy them. And I love that what they do. So they are experts in conservation, and they came up with a newsletter called "The State We're In," which has the kind of double meaning to it. And I eat that up. Like I love learning about nature. I love seeing how they're preserving these particular animals. And so when they send it to me, I gladly open that up. And because I'm vested in what they do, at the end of the year, of course, I'm going to give. In fact, I think I'm a recurring donor to them. So what I'm trying to illustrate there is it comes back to what I've said before, that core principle: know who your audience is. And there's ways to do that. And then think about what is it, why are they giving to us to begin with? Well, let me then give back to them something that's going to be interesting, valuable, educational to them. That's the core principle. That, and then segmenting out your audience, based on different criteria so that you tailor what you're sending out to that individual group.
Yeah. Um, I I love that. Now, I email weekly. I think we should be going more frequently with less content in each one.
Mhm.
Is that is
That all depends. It works for some others it doesn't. Like in the case
Okay.
of this organization, I think it's once every 2 weeks. That's just enough for me. If I was to get one a week, I probably wouldn't be able to keep up. But
Okay.
if your base is used to hearing from you in this fashion and it's short and sweet and they're getting deriving value from it, then every week, why not?
Yeah. Well, I mean, here's how I look at it. And this is just my thoughts, is which is if you have 25% open rate,
Hmm.
okay, which is a nice open rate, that
Yeah,
means 25% are reading it, 75% missed it. Okay. So if I'm emailing like once a month, people aren't only seeing me,
right.
you know, every couple months maybe. So from my perspective, just like, yeah, if every other week is better than once a month,
Right.
and also yeah, if you feel like you can't keep up or you don't have enough content, every
Hmm.
other week is fine. I think it's the consistency that is the thing, right?
Sure.
So every Friday morning you'll hear from me,
Hmm.
and I nice and short and sweet, and I'm always looking at through the lens of why would people care? What is of value to them?
Hmm.
But in general, I think instead of doing that monthly thing, maybe breaking that up, over a couple of weeks or maybe two, instead of like, and I'm not asking people to create a bunch of new content. I'm just saying when you do that monthly dump, you have a really good chance of missing a lot of people, you know? And then that forces people to then go through that and segment themselves and see what's interesting to them. And I think that's something you mentioned at the beginning, which is
Right.
segmentation. And I wonder how many people are really working to segment their list. And how do you
Mhm.
even do that if you're not getting like, how would somebody who like, yes, I don't want to do the monthly dump anymore. Like,
Mhm.
I would love to tailor more communication. How do you segment a list or what does that look like to do that?
Sure. So, well, after the fact, you do obviously have to pull your lists and go through them, line by line. And hopefully this isn't a 10,000 person list. And hopefully your systems have pulled some kind of data. You have some kind of note in there as to how you got them and
Yeah.
you recognize them in some way and then start to segment it out that way. But you can sense where I'm going. Ideally, what you want to do is have those pre-filtered setups there on the website, on your social channels, on your, sign up list when you have an event, and think of the criteria that you want to put on there without being too burdensome because nobody wants to sign up for,
Right.
very few people want to sign up for an email to begin with, and you don't want to burden them with, 30
A bunch of,
questions, but
yeah, right.
just key questions that will help you understand how best you can serve them. That's what you're looking to do.
Yeah. Um, I think, you can also just ask. I mean, like you can just send an email and say, hey, we're going to start sending out volunteer only. If you want to be
Mhm.
on that, click, you might have to do that a few times. But I think you can through like maybe in a campaign form, just ask people, hey, do you
Mhm.
want to, do you want to have more tailored, just learn about, because what I see is people putting like volunteer opportunities, all of that. Also, I feel like the more personal, the better. We're building relationships now with an organization and a person with a person and a person. And I
Mhm.
really like a personal tone in emails. And I think that feels like I know somebody and I'm connected to somebody.
That's 100% true. Just out of our own book, we segment our own lists at VCS Interactive for our different kind of audiences. So when I'm talking to a foundation, it's not the same as talking to, say, a classic traditional charity or nonprofit. They have a different mindset. Most of the time, they're granting money as opposed to, trying to gain it. So there's a different mindset in that individual base. So I have to change my tone to speak to them, and you do that for every audience that you have under you. So yeah.
Yeah, and I know it can feel kind of overwhelming, but once you sort of get it set up, it becomes, I think, from my experience, it becomes systematized and it's not as crazy. Like it's like, oh, I got to talk to. Once you have it set up, I think the system the kind of takes care of it. You
Well,
know.
and that's how, I don't know if you wanted to kind of wrap up with that, but that's a really good foundational thought for all of these concepts, right? I try to teach clients that these are, yes, they're fundamentals. They may seem boring, but the fundamentals over time, if you pay attention to them, are what's going to bring you success. To systematize all of these, to look at all of these on an occasional basis and kind of grow from there. Every client we meet wants the ALS Ice Bucket Challenge, right? How can we go viral? How can we?
People are
And that
still talking about that.
that's a once in a lifetime type thing, right? Like build the basic building blocks, focus on them, That's how you,
ALS didn't even set out to create the ice bucket challenge.
right.
That's the thing. They didn't have a big meeting and say, nobody sits in a meeting and says, let's make something
Doesn't
viral.
work that
It
way.
either connect, right? Sometimes the magic hits, but the communities are built on that one-off magic. They're built the day-to-day work
Love
of
it.
relationship
Yep.
building.
That's
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. And so I hear what you're saying. It just freaked me out because that was like 2010 or
Yeah.
something like that
It was
happened.
a
Or
while back.
yeah. Maybe at least 10 years ago, don't you think?
Yeah.
I think they had the 10th anniversary or something. And that hit, like you're right, it is the day-to-day work. So tell me, how do you work with clients? What does it look like to work with you?
Well, I mean, it really is it spans the spectrum, right? It depends on who the organization is, but we typically start by doing a deep onboarding, and we work really in three sectors. So the first is digital strategy. So we want to assess kind of all the things that you and I just spoke about, perhaps put together a digital roadmap if they require that. Um, Put together a comprehensive digital marketing plan, depending upon what it is that they want to achieve. Then we do a lot of website design and development and storytelling. So that's a key component of what we're looking at as well too. Sometimes they need it, sometimes they don't. Like not, a comprehensive website redesign, it's kind of a blunt instrument, right?
Yeah.
It's a big endeavor. I love doing it. I'm not saying that, we turn clients away, but sometimes it's a matter of, just tweaking the site and looking at positioning. So that's a second component. And then of course, looking at their social channels as well too. So we work with clients across the country. Again, foundations, nonprofits. We do a lot of school work as well too. So, the key question that clients should ask themselves before coming to us is saying, all right, well, we're trying to achieve a certain goal. We're trying to achieve a certain level of awareness. Something's holding us back, right?
Yes.
Something online is holding us back. Can you help us with that? And so we assess from there, and then we kind of prescribe
Is
the
part of that,
medicine.
like the SEO and keywords and things like that
Yeah,
as well?
absolutely. Absolutely. So just a quick like idea there is that you'd be amazed how much funds are raised from individuals that are searching for a particular topic. They found the organization that really addresses that, and then they say, well, they're doing it the right way. They're helping me in my community. Let's give a little to them. And an example would be like, let's say a cancer charity that has really become the expert in a specific, form within
Yeah.
that community, and they're searching on the web for answers, and they find that group, and then so that's, kind of a case study in terms of putting up really good content in your area of expertise. And that could be for anything, environmental, animal welfare, food insecurity. Become the expert in your niche, write about it, talk about it, shoot videos about it. It doesn't have to be this expensive proposition. And over time, people will find you.
Yeah. I love it. It's a long game,
It is.
I think people think that we wave the marketing one. This is a long game that you build over time. I mean, I have 5,000 people on my email list. You know how many started with? Zero.
There you are. Good for
But
you.
because you build over time. All
Correct.
right. Two questions um to wrap up. First is the, executive director who's, like what of a small shop,
Mhm.
or a marketing person, what is one thing they could do like today
Mhm.
to engage more people, to shift community? Like what would be one little takeaway?
I would, in the way that you framed it, I would start on social, right? It's kind of two things here, right? I would think about the discussion you and I just had about positioning. And if that feels relatively good to you, if you feel comfortable with the direction you're taking, then start kind of diving headlong into that and get on one of your social channels. And by the way, I'm not an advocate of we have to be on every social channel, right? Pick
Yeah.
the one
Yeah.
where you
Yeah.
feel you will do your best, where your audience is, and start really on a daily basis if possible, right? 2 or 3 times a week, let's say, talking about what makes you great. And then start to build from there. That's again, that's a long game. I don't have a silver bullet for you, but that's how I would get started and then get feedback from that and start to feed that into your website and then start to think about how you're emailing and talking to your constituents. So that's
Yeah.
that's the quick answer.
I love it. Okay. And my last question. So you're a drummer. My creative self-expression is karaoke.
Okay.
So,
Oh boy.
and I can tell you many, many ways. In fact, I'm in the middle of writing some content, a podcast, because, about how what karaoke teaches you is to like imperfect action and releasing the outcome and just, putting your voice out there and seeing what happens. And and how, what a good lesson that is, because a lot of us, like, they don't want to have the conversation because they're not sure what to say. You know what I mean? Like, how to do scary things. So, question is, when we're at a karaoke bar, because obviously we're best friends now,
Well, I'm glad to hear that.
what's your go-to song?
Well, first of all, you are so courageous. The last person you want up there in a karaoke bar, Maryanne, is me. If you want to clear out a room, you just get me to start singing, and there it goes. But if I had to save you as my best friend, I still am like a very big Police fan. I'm a big
Oh,
Sting fan.
oh
I've been,
yeah.
I admire that guy from afar. That's who I want to be when I'm 72. My God. So I'd probably do something like that, like Every Breath You Take, or
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Bushman in
yeah.
New York, or something like that. I make my family upset by singing those songs all day around the house. So I guess I could do it
Well,
with you.
see, if you're not in love with your voice, you just
Yeah.
sing the song and everybody sings along with you, and then you're right, and it's more of a sing along. So
There's a reason why I play the drums. Let's put it that way.
there you go. Well, Lou, this has been awesome. Thank you so much for joining us, and all the wisdom that you shared. What's the best way to get in touch with you if people would like to learn more about what you do?
Well, there's a couple ways. I mean, you can visit our website, bcsinteractive.com, and always you could shoot me an email if you have any questions on any of this. That's Lewis@bcsinteractive.com, Louis. And lastly, I spend a lot of time on LinkedIn, so you can
Yeah.
find me at Lou Kotsinis, and
I
we'll go
think
from
that's
there.
how we met. And also it all those links are in the show notes. So if you're driving, don't worry about it. Don't have a crash trying to write that down.
Please don't.
Thank you everyone. And thanks, Lou. It was a joy to spend time with you. I love everything you're doing. I love meeting marketing people because it's like, yes, so
Thank you,
validating.
Marianne.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Well, and you can reach me too if you want to connect with me more. My link to connect with me is in the show notes as well. And we will see you next time on the Influential Nonprofit.